I want you to picture a very specific kind of darkness.
Okay, set the scene.
Well, it's not the kind you get in a city when the power goes out,
Yeah,
because even then you still have the glow of streetlights or cell towers in the
where
distance.
there's always that ambient light.
Exactly. I am talking about rural Telangana, mid-1970s. It is pitch black.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a heavy fog settling on the fields. You are miles away from the nearest paved road, and a crime has just been committed.
It's a terrifying scenario, honestly.
It really is. And it gets worse.
Mm.
Because there are no telephones, there are no jeeps patrolling the neighborhood.
No quick way to call for help.
None. The nearest police station, the one with the khaki uniforms and the wireless radios, that's half a day's journey away.
Easily.
And by the time they get there, any evidence is going to be washed away by the rain or trampled by cattle. So in that moment, in that absolute isolation, who is the law?
That is the fundamental question of human governance, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
When the state is far away, who holds the line?
Yeah.
And in the context we are looking at today, the answer isn't a squad car. It's a neighbor.
Which perfectly brings us to the document we are tearing into today. We are doing a deep dive into the Telangana Village Police Act, 1974.
A truly fascinating piece of legislation.
It is. Now, I know what you're thinking listening to this. A legislative act from 1974 about village administration sounds like a cure for insomnia.
It does sound a bit dry at first glance.
Right. But I started reading this thing, and it reads less like a legal text and more like a survival guide for a very lonely job.
That is a great way to put it. It's formally known as Act Number 31 of 1974. But you are right to focus on the isolation aspect.
Because that's the whole point, right?
Exactly. This document is a bridge. It is the legislative link between the massive, slow-moving machinery of the formal state police and the granular, hyperlocal reality of village life.
But here's the thing that threw me right off the bat. We are in 1974. India has been independent for decades. We are talking about a modern democracy here. But near the end of this document, there is a repeal clause.
Ah, yes. Section 13.
Yeah, it says this act replaces regulations from 1816 and 1821.
The Madras Regulations of 1816 and 1821, to be precise.
1816, I mean, that is deep colonial territory. That is the East India Company era.
It absolutely is.
So why, in 1974, is a modern state looking at a policing system designed by colonial overlords, a system meant to control the peasantry, and saying, you know what, let's keep that. That works.
That is the critical tension here. You have to understand that for the state, whether it's the British Raj or the Independent Republic, the core logistical problem remains exactly the same.
Which is what?
How do you control a vast rural population with incredibly limited resources?
You can't put a constable on every corner.
Exactly. It's way too expensive. The logistics are impossible. So you co-opt the local structure. You take the existing social hierarchy and you deputize it.
Which brings us to the who. Who exactly is this village police officer?
Right. Let's look at Section 3.
Yeah, because I assume they would hire someone, right? Give them a badge, maybe a week of basic training, and send them out. But the act says the district magistrate appoints the existing, quote, head of the village.
Spot on. The act lists various local titles depending on the specific region: police patel, village headman, village munsif, or triune officer.
Triune officer, that sounds intense.
It does. But the core concept across all those titles is the same. The village police officer isn't a new guy. It's likely the person who is already the most powerful figure in the village.
Wait, isn't that a massive conflict of interest?
How so?
Well, think about it. This person is often the patel or the munsif. They are usually in charge of revenue, right? Collecting taxes, settling land disputes.
Right.
Now you're handing them the handcuffs, too.
Yeah.
If I have a dispute with the headman about my land tax, and he's also the guy who decides if I'm a suspicious character, that sounds like a recipe for local tyranny, not justice.
From a modern separation of powers perspective, you are absolutely right. It concentrates an immense amount of power in one single individual.
It's all the branches of government in one guy.
Essentially, yes. That's why in some areas they were called triune officers, holding three powers at once: revenue, police, and magistrate.
Wow.
But from the state's perspective back then, it's purely about efficiency. You don't have to build a new institution from scratch. You just take the guy everyone already fears or respects, and you tell him, okay, now you report to us.
So it's efficient, but maybe not exactly fair. But let's look at what this person is actually protecting.
Okay.
Because I was reading the definitions section, which is usually the boring part of any legal text, and I hit the definition of cattle.
Ah, yes. Section 2, subsection 1.
It starts normal. Cows, bulls, sure. But then it lists and I quote, elephants, camels, horses, asses, mules, sheep, goats, and swine.
Covers a lot of ground.
Elephants.
Yep.
In 1974.
I know, it sounds amusing to us now.
Yeah.
You picture a village policeman writing a parking ticket for a speeding elephant.
Right.
But you have to strip away the modern lens for a second. This act is obsessed with assets. In a rural economy, animals aren't just pets or food. They are capital. They are technology.
Oh, I see. So a bullock isn't just a cow, it's a tractor.
Exactly. If someone steals your plow bullock, your family might literally starve next season. If someone steals a camel or an elephant in regions where those were used for heavy transport or labor, that is a massive economic flow to the community.
So they had to cast a wide net.
By defining all these animals as cattle, the act is ensuring that the theft of any major economic asset falls squarely under the jurisdiction of the village police. It's fundamentally about protecting the agrarian economy.
Okay, that makes sense. So we have this powerful headman, and he's protecting everything from pigs to elephants. Now, how does he actually do it?
That brings us to Section 4 and 5, the administration and the duties.
Yeah, this is where it started to feel a little bit like a surveillance state to me. Section 4 says the administration vests in the district magistrate, who delegates down. It's a very civil service chain of command. But the duties in Section 5 the Act basically turns the village police officer into an intelligence agent.
You're looking at Duty 5A, the reporting duties.
Yeah. It says he has to reciprocally communicate all information regarding any offenses committed or any, quote, gang of robbers or strangers of suspicious appearance.
Strangers of suspicious appearance. That phrase does a lot of heavy lifting.
It's paranoid. I mean, in a city, everyone is a stranger, but this act basically says if you see a face you don't know, that is automatically a police matter. It feels like it mandates a culture of suspicion.
It certainly creates a very closed loop. It highlights the protective, highly insular nature of village policing. But think about the threat model in time.
What do you mean?
Well, the act mentions gangs of robbers. We aren't talking about a guy snatching a purse in an alley. We are talking about dacoity.
Dacoity. That's a specific legal term in India, right?
Yes. Under the Indian Penal Code, dacoity is robbery committed by 5 or more people. Historically, these were organized, armed bands that would travel from region to region, raiding villages, sometimes burning houses.
Oh, wow.
They were a terrifying, overwhelming force. A single village couldn't fight them off easily.
So the reciprocal communication part that isn't just village gossip, it's a literal early warning system.
Precisely. If a strange group enters your village, you have a legal duty to tell the next village over. You are the relay tower. If that signal fails, if the headman is lazy and doesn't send the runner to the next village, people could die.
Okay, that makes the stranger danger aspect make a lot more sense. But then there's another clause in the duties that feels incredibly broad. Duty 5B.
Reporting to the nearest police station.
Right, and he has to report all matters connected with public peace and tranquility.
That is the ultimate catch-all clause.
It's huge. Public peace and tranquility could mean anything. A political meeting, a religious festival, 2 guys arguing over a fence. It sounds like the state wants to know the vibe of the village at all times.
They do. They need to. You have to remember, the formal police are far away. They can't react to a riot until it's already over.
So they rely on prevention.
Exactly. Duty 5E explicitly tasks them with preventing offenses. The state needs the village police officer to predict the riot, to flag the tension before it snaps.
Which turns the headman into a censor of social behavior.
Yes, he has to judge what threatens tranquility.
And if he decides that tranquility is threatened or if a crime actually happens, what can he do? I mean, he's one guy, maybe he's got a stick, and he's dealing with a gang of dacoits.
Well, he's not entirely alone. This is where Section 6 gets very interesting regarding his hierarchy and authority. He has a posse, effectively.
Right. The act mentions the Karnam.
Yes, the Karnam. That's the village accountant or clerk, a civil servant. The act explicitly says the village police officer has authority over the Karnam and other village servants and can require them to aid him.
I just love the image of this. You have this accountant who just wants to sit there, balance his ledgers, count the grain sacks, and the headman kicks the door open and says, "Put down the abacus, grab a club, we're going to catch a thief."
It mobilizes the civil administration for physical force. It shows that the state is implying, we aren't sending help. Use whoever is available.
And his powers are significant, too. I was looking at Section 7 regarding stolen property.
A very proactive section.
Yeah, if he suspects stolen property is being concealed, he doesn't need to wait for a warrant from a judge in the city.
No, he doesn't.
That part surprised me. He can just cause search to be made.
If he has reason to apprehend that the property will disappear, yes. He conducts the search, he secures the property, and he can arrest the offender.
And then what?
Then he must forward both the property and the offender to the nearest police station.
It's basically a citizen's arrest with extra steps, or citizen's arrest on steroids.
It is a formal deputization. But again, it speaks to that speed issue we talked about. If you wait for a police warrant, the stolen jewelry is melted down, or the stolen cow is 2 districts away.
The logic of the act is pure immediacy.
Exactly. He is the stopgap measure to freeze the crime in place before the evidence vanishes.
Speaking of freezing the crime in place, we have to talk about the forensics section.
Section 8.
Yes. This is where the reality of the job really hit me. It's not just catching bad guys with a posse, it's crime scene investigation. CSI, Village Edition.
This is arguably one of the most critical duties in the entire text.
It lists specific crimes: murder, housebreaking, robbery, dacoity, accidental death, and it says he must preserve the scene of offense intact.
Intact. 2 words carrying a massive burden.
And then it gets very specific. It says he has to preserve finger and footprints.
Footprints. We completely overlook that today.
Yeah, we have DNA, CCTV, digital tracking.
But in rural India in 1974, and certainly back in the 1800s, tracking was the primary forensic method. Most roads were dirt. Fields were mud. A criminal literally left their mark.
But imagine the pressure of that. Let's say it's monsoon season. It is pouring rain. A murder happens in a muddy field. The formal police might not arrive for 48 hours. This village police officer, who again is just a local farmer or landlord, not a trained CSI tech, has to physically stand there and protect a patch of mud.
Without yellow police tape. Without a protective tent.
Exactly. If a stray cow walks over that footprint, the case is ruined. If the rain washes it away, the murderer goes free.
It creates an incredible burden of scene management on someone with very little formal training. That phrase, preserve intact, is a high bar.
It really is.
It implies that if the evidence is corrupted, it's on him.
Yeah.
He's the gatekeeper of justice. If he fails at that initial stage, the entire formal legal system that follows is completely useless.
So he's a detective, a guard, and a forensic protector.
Yes.
But then I got to section 10.
Yeah.
And I honestly had to put the document down and just stare at the wall for a second.
The aircraft class.
The aircraft class. I mean, we've been talking about bullocks and mud and footprints and dacoits. Section 9 talks about taking charge of unclaimed property, lost and found stuff, normal things.
And then section 10 pivots wildly.
It's bizarre. It suddenly says, on the occurrence of an accident to an aircraft.
It seems completely out of place in a Village Administration Act, doesn't it?
It's totally out of place. It says if a plane crashes, the village police officer must at once report the matter to the executive magistrate and police station. And this is the kicker: if anyone is injured, he must report it to the nearest medical officer.
Why does that specific detail stand out to you so much?
Because of the insane contrast.
Wow.
We're talking about a village that might not even have running water or electricity. Seeing an airplane in the sky in 1974 would have been a major event for some of these places.
Absolutely.
Crash would be like an alien invasion. And yet the law casually says, hey, if a Boeing 737 drops out of the sky into your cornfield, that is your jurisdiction, Mr. Hedman.
It's a fantastic illustration of the concept of total liability.
Total liability.
Yes, the state is basically saying there are no gaps in the map. There is no square inch of territory that is unsupervised. If a plane goes down in the wildest, most remote forest, it is still within the boundary of some specific village.
So someone has to be in charge.
Therefore, the village police officer is the incident commander.
Can you imagine the stress? You wake up dealing with a lost goat, and suddenly you're the first responder for a massive aviation disaster. You have to secure the site, deal with the wreckage, maybe pull people out of the burning fuselage.
It illustrates just how much responsibility the government offloaded onto this one individual. It's the remote area clause in its purest form.
They really threw everything at him.
The village police officer is the state's only avatar. Whether it's a petty theft, an argument over a fence, or a plane falling from the sky, he is the government until the government arrives.
It really drives home that point that he isn't just a helper, he is the system.
Precisely.
But here is the dark side of all that responsibility. We've talked about what he has to do. What happens if he just doesn't do it? Maybe he's exhausted. Maybe he's genuinely scared of the dacoits. Or maybe he just wants to sleep through the night.
Then we get to the penalties. Section 11.
Penalty for neglect of duty.
The act is very strict here. If he is guilty of neglect or violation of duty or willful breach of the rules, he can be punished.
And the punishment isn't just a slap on the wrist or losing his badge. It says imprisonment for a term which may extend to 3 months.
That is the stick.
3 months in jail. For what? For being lazy? For falling asleep and missing a footprint in the mud?
Potentially, yes. If he fails to report a crime, or if he fails to stop a breach of the peace to the best of his ability, he is criminally liable.
That's intense.
And think about the social humiliation involved. This is the headman, the Patel, the guy who runs the village. To be thrown in jail like a common thief because he didn't do his police duties, that destroys his status entirely.
It turns the job from an honor into a trap.
Exactly. It forces compliance. You cannot be a passive leader. If you accept the title of headman, you accept the risk of imprisonment if you fail to be the police.
There is also a fine mentioned in that section up to 100 rupees, which, we could joke about inflation today, but in 1974, rural India, that was real money.
Well, it was a significant sum, certainly. But the prison time is the real threat. It signals that this isn't some casual volunteer position. You are drafted. You are a conscript in the state's war against disorder.
So when we step back and look at this whole picture from the 1816 colonial roots mentioned in the repeal section, all the way to this 1974 act, it paints a very specific picture of how order is maintained.
It does.
It's not about technology. It's not about modern institutions. It's about a person.
It forces us to reconsider what we actually mean by policing.
How so?
We tend to think of it as a system of written laws and formal enforcement agencies, patrol cars, radios, dispatchers. But this act reminds us that for most of human history, and certainly in vast rural areas, policing was just about community structure.
Right.
It was about knowing who belongs in the village and who doesn't, relying on local leaders to hold the line.
But is that a good thing? I keep going back to the suspicious stranger part of the duties.
It is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it offers genuine security in a completely lawless, isolated environment. You know someone is watching out for you. You know there is a local system to catch the cattle thief or spot the dacoit before they strike.
Yeah, that's the positive side.
But on the other hand, it creates a deeply insular, surveillance-heavy society where the local leader has unchecked authority to define exactly who is a threat.
And that's the question I want to leave everyone listening with today. We live in a world now of CCTV, facial recognition, and centralized digital databases. We don't rely on the village headman to spot a stranger anymore. An algorithm does it for us. But have we lost something in that transition?
We've definitely lost the human context. The village police officer knew why the stranger was suspicious, or he knew that the breach of peace was just a family squabble that would blow over by morning. He had discretion. An algorithm doesn't have discretion.
But he also had prejudices. He had the power to bully people he didn't like.
True, the human element always includes human flaws.
It's a fascinating trade-off to think about. We move from the eyes of the village, one guy standing in the rain watching for footprints, to the eyes of the state, with satellites and cameras. And honestly, I'm not sure which one makes me feel safer.
Perhaps the scary part isn't the method, but that we need eyes at all.
That is a deep thought to end on. Next time you see a neighborhood watch sign, just remember, it used to be a lot more than a sign. It was the law, it was the jail, and it was the CSI unit all rolled into one. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Telangana Village Police Act.
A pleasure to walk the beat with you.
See you on the next deep dive. Stay curious.